What up, everybody? Welcome to the Spectrum Podcast. This is TG doing things live. Sorry, guys, I had to make you wait for 8 minutes, but I had to get everything in order just to make sure. For those of you wondering where my co-host James would be, I think he'll hop on when he's done with his family. Things tend to happen. Hello, Jessica Anderson. Good to see you. I can see, like, you were wondering if anybody was here. Yes, there are people here. Sorry to have you all waiting, but I just had to get some stuff in order. So, what we're going to go over is some new rules the NCAA has put in place regarding the transfer portal rules. We're also going to go over something regarding what Ryan Day said about a draft taking place in college football, which I don't think he was serious about, but we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about some little bit of NFL news, which is talking about Kirk Cousins and Stephon Gilmore. Stephen Gilmore. Then we'll also end up getting into talk about comparing the coaches that we've talked about, such as Kirk Cignetti, Ryan Day, Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, Dabo Swinney. We'll compare those guys to some of the greats there have been in college football, because from what I have understood is in all of college football, we have started comparing coaches to one another. Now, we will get to that. But first, I'll give you guys a bit of news regarding college football, which is the news of the NCAA finally cracking down on transfer portal rules. For once, thank God. The NCAA had passed an emergency blind transfer rules for Division I, limiting the athletes can leave their current schools and enroll somewhere else in the transfer portal. It applies to all D1 schools. Programs face serious penalties, head coach suspension for half a season, and 20% of college of their sports budget for the programs. And the CFB now has only it looks like a 15-day transfer portal window, down from 2, meaning spring movement without the portal is now restricted. And obviously this comes after we've heard all about the tampering that's been going on, especially with going all the way back to Wisconsin, defensive back Xavier Lucas leaving for Miami. So apparently and obviously we heard about the Mensa situation. Jeremiah Smith just talked about the same program, trying to poach him and everything else. It's not surprising to me that this is finally getting addressed. It's not surprising to me that eventually this was going to get addressed. It is surprising that the NCAA is actually doing something for once. But let's be realistic about this. I do want to see them I do want to see the NCAA pretty much like go forward with the rules. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, I want to see the NCAA actually execute this kind of rule, because they've lost all kinds of trust since the whole cheating scandal that started with the scumbags up north, and a bunch of other rules that they've let certain schools get away with. So hopefully they enforce these rules the way they should, and rightfully so. Because I'm not gonna lie, the transfer portal window, we can all agree, has gotten severely out of control. It has. It's gotten to a point where you have people leaving, you got players leaving anytime they want. We just seen it recently with Ohio State, when it comes to about 25 guys hitting the portal. Now, I will say this. There was some issues back going on where players were breaking team rules, and a lot of them left because Ohio State basically said, listen here, you can either follow the rules. Hey, what up, Eric? My man from the OHL podcast. What up, my good sir? Happy Easter, my brother. And happy Easter to all of you. But, again, I will say this. When it comes to the whole thing with the Buckeyes and how what happened with them, we've seen that those players broke rules they didn't want to follow, obviously. So Ohio State told them they need to leave. Rightfully so. Now, not all of them left because of that, but most of them did. I'll say that now. But we've also seen reports with, again, Jeremiah Smith getting tampered with for the third year in a row, no matter how much he told Miami no. And we will talk about that as well, because some YouTuber decided to try to make some about Jeremiah Smith, and I'm going to get into him in a minute. But we also had cases where Carnell Tate was getting tampered with as well as other talent. But it's not just Ohio State, as we all know. Dabo Swinney called out Ole Miss because they were tampering with his talent as well. Again, we already talked about Miami tampering with a bunch of talent from a bunch of different teams. Some that it's proven that they're the biggest set of scumbags on the planet Earth. The other set of teams, as we've seen, doing this, there are some in the SEC like Auburn, like Texas. Obviously, they're tampering in a sense. It's getting to a point where these rules do need to come into place, because now we're starting to have some kind of rules being done with the transfer portal. Now, again, I do think there are some rules they need to add, such as for the players, if you transfer more than once, you have to sit out for a year. Like, I think you get one free transfer, so you better make it count. And if you don't, and if you transfer again, you're going to have to sit out for a year. So it's the only way to scare these kids into making them not do that, because back in the day when you had the transfer portal, when players transferred, they had to sit out a year. They had to sit out a year. They had to. They didn't have a choice. And it kept them in place as well, because it was like, look, I don't want to sit out for a year. Like, the only way you could get them to transfer is if they redshirted and sat out. It's the only way. But it's like, after that, there should be some more transfer portal rules, such as you giving back money to the programs that are spending this amount of money on you. Like, for instance, there is a quarterback who has been in college football, I think for about, like, let's see here, like, what, 8, 9 years almost? Who's been to 9 different schools? Like, no, dude, we can't keep having this with the transfer portal. So at the end of the day, we need something to happen with the transfer portal to have some rules. I'm glad the NCAA is finally doing something about it. But again, I do want rules for the players where if they break these rules, they ain't got a choice but to follow it, if you ask me. Now, another set of news that we do have coming out of college football is regarding, like I said, a player, somebody, a part of the media who decided to call out Jeremiah Smith, who called out Miami about tampering with him on a constant basis. And somebody said he decided to take the easy way at Ohio State, which I found so goddamn stupid. I couldn't help but laugh. Seriously, I could not help but laugh at that, because you're basically saying, how do I say this? You're basically saying that Jeremiah Smith took the easy way to Ohio State instead of going to Miami, where Jeremiah Smith won a national title in his first year at Ohio State and should have went back-to-back, but the whole thing that hurt them was not really any of the two teams that beat them, even though, again, you can make an argument that there's truth to that. But it's more so the fact that Brian Hartline, and I mean this when I say this, when Brian Hartline literally had taken a head coaching job because the timeline for coaching hires absolutely suck, which isn't his fault. But that's what you're going to basically, like, pretty much say is, like, he took the easy way when he decided to go with Ohio State, a program who, unlike Miami, actually knows how to develop wide receivers. But sure, let's say he took the easy way, right? Let's say he took the easy way because he didn't want to go out of his way to play for a program like Miami, who hadn't been relevant since 2002. Do you hear yourself? I'm not going to call this guy by name because I don't want to give him any more publicity than what he already has. But it's like, how could you be this stupid? And then you got some of these Miami fans out here saying, well, Jeremiah Smith is not as good as Malachi Tony, and he's not as like looked up to and is not a hero in Miami. And then I listen to this and I say to myself, are you Miami fans absolutely just dumb tards? Like, there's a video out on social media where you have kids in the state of Miami literally who adore Jeremiah Smith. For starters, these kids in Miami, and trust me, there's a video out on Facebook and X that shows you have kids in the state of Miami adoring Jeremiah Smith. They look up to him. Yet you saying he's not as valuable, like he's not a state hero. He is. Just doesn't play for your crappy program, who's only been good for a year. And you already got everybody trying to say, well, the U is back after one good year. One good year. No, you're not going to say the U is back after they had one good year. Like, they better be able to keep it up on a consistent basis. Because they can't do that. You can't keep saying the U is back. Because it's like Texas constantly saying that they're back. That's what that's like saying. You're like saying Texas is back. Bro, you ain't been consistent for a good long while. You need to have more than just one good, consistent year. Now, I can't say this. At least Texas, unlike these morons, has made the playoffs multiple times. They made it 3 times. So I can't say that about Texas. But I'm not going to go out of my way to say, like, they back or something. Like, no, dude. But at least I can say they're good. Like, they're back to being good, at least. But I'm not going to say, like, oh, the dominant Longhorns back. Like, no, they're not that. And after 1 year, everybody want to say the U is back? No. But the one that really ticks me off again is about Malachi Tony. Look, I like Malachi Tony. I think he's a good receiver. I am not going to take that away from Malachi Tony. Ask yourself this question, Miami fans, the ones who've been saying this. Like, not all Miami fans, but the delusional ones who have been. Ask yourself this question. Would an NFL scout take Malachi Tony or Jeremiah Smith? Because last time I checked, no offense to Malachi Tony, but Jeremiah Smith is considered a top 5, top 3, possibly a number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. And it's seen, even though this word gets thrown around a lot, and people may feel free to say whatever they want about this, but this is absolutely true, because you know Jeremiah Smith is a him when you see him. Jeremiah Smith is him. Jeremiah Smith is generational. Jeremiah Smith is different. Jeremiah Smith is different, people. Jeremiah Smith is different. Jeremiah Smith is that dude. Jeremiah Smith is that go-to guy. Jeremiah Smith is a once-in-a-generation talent. And you telling me Malachi Tony better than a guy who everybody, including every NFL scout, every NFL team, every personnel considers the best player, not just best receiver, people, the best player in all of college football. Malachi Tony's not in that conversation. Again, Malachi Tony's a good receiver. I'm not going to take that away from him. But Jeremiah Smith is known as the best player in college football and probably the best we've seen in a long time since Keyshawn Johnson. Maybe even Calvin Johnson. Julio Jones. Since guys like that. And we just had Marvin not that long ago. Like, he's the best we've seen practically since those dudes. Even since Marvin Harrison Jr. And you're going to sit here and tell me that Malachi Tony is better than the Jeremiah Smith? You must be out of your goddamn mind. And I know for a fact a lot of fans were looking at these fools. Like, trust me, a lot of college football fans were looking at these Miami fans like, y'all are flat out delusional. If you really believe Malachi Tony is better than Jeremiah Smith. You're only saying this because Jeremiah Smith turned your program down 3 straight times. Matter of fact, count it, make it 4. Make it 4. Because he turned you guys down in recruiting. He turned you guys when you tampered with him in his first year. He turned you guys down twice. Junior year, senior year of his high school career, then turned you down in his freshman year when you guys tried tampering him, tampered with you again. You guys tried tampering with him again, and he turned you down for the 4th straight time. Jeremiah Smith knows where to go when he wants to get developed, people. Miami is not the place you want to go if you're a receiver. Like, if you want to be a wide receiver that goes to the NFL and has a successful NFL career, go to Ohio State. I'm sorry to tell you that, Miami fans. I know it may be offensive, but it's truthful. Literally, go look at Ohio State's receivers in the NFL right now. Go look at the information that Buckeye Huddle's Tony McGurdy, or whatever his last name is, posted. Look at what RJ Young had mentioned on his Adapt and Response podcast. And what every single big-time media company has basically said. Ohio State's receiving unit as of right now in the year of 2025 going into 2026, which is this year. This year alone, in 2026, this year alone, Ohio State's wide receiving unit is worth $500 million. And that is with Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Ibuka, and Chris Olave all still on rookie contracts. And I think Chris Olave will be signing a new contract. Now, it won't be as much as he probably should be making, and it's only because of the concussions he suffered during his time in the NFL, which weren't his fault. His quarterbacks kept throwing him hospital balls. But he will get a good contract, a great contract, bigger than the one he's currently making with his rookie deal, which I think should be going out either this year or next year. And I believe his contract would have ended around the same time as Garrett Wilson, since the both of them came in at the same time. So the reality is, when we're talking about this whole thing with Jeremiah Smith and Malachi Tony, I think Malachi Tony is a good receiver. He is a guy I would definitely consider to be a good receiver. But when you got fans like you trying to say, again, one particular Miami fan who basically has said this, and like I said, I'm not going to say his name, but he knows who he is, said Jeremiah Smith took the easy way. Jeremiah Smith took the development way. Because I want the person who said he took the easy way after he called out Miami for tampering with him again, I want you to understand something. Jeremiah Smith chose Ohio State because they're the best at developing receivers. And when you got half of the receiving room, and guess what? We just talked about just the 2021 room that's worth $500 million. You can include Terry McLaurin in that conversation. And a couple other former Buckeyes that are in there, such as Noah Brown, who's been around, the only receiver from his draft class that's still in the NFL, and Curtis Samuel. They're still worth $500 million alone. Almost damn near $1 million. And think about it. Ohio State's going to have another first-round receiver in Carnell Tate, because Carnell will be going first round. And I'm pretty sure his rookie deal will be somewhere around somewhere between $18 to $25 million is how much Carnell's rookie deal will be. It won't be as much as Marvin's rookie deal, which is $35.4 million, which is crazy in and of itself. But y'all have the nerve to say that man took the easy way. Y'all got some goddamn nerve to say that man took the easy way. When you look at the Ohio State receivers, seriously, ask me this question. How much money are Miami wide receivers making right now in the NFL? I like to know. Tell me, how much are Miami receivers making? Don't go out of your way to say this man took the easy way, when this man is part of the most prestigious, dominant, and consistent program, which has been said by numerous media outlets that Ohio State has been the most dominant, the most consistent, and prestigious program in all college football, because they've never had a down period. Yes, they may have a down year at a time, but that ain't consistent with the program. And guess what? That down year usually contributes to something happening, something bad that had happened. Like Tattoo Game. Ohio State had games that they could have won and went 11-0 had they actually had good coaching. That's what's so terrifying. Is that 6 and 7 season, they absolutely could have won 11 games. And it was just bad coaching that cost them. For granted, can't blame Luke Fickell, but you got to understand where that's coming from. You do. You really do. But I'm just saying, man, for people who say that this man took the easy way, you are full of it today. You really are. Now, we can move on to some NFL news real quick. First, we're going to talk about the biggest announcement that had happened, which is Stephon Gilmore's retirement. He announced that he's retiring from the NFL. Not surprising, in all fairness. And no, trust me, it's not surprising. Whether people know it or not, it's not. At some point, he was going to retire. It had been talked about with Stephon Gilmore, whether or not he would retire. He was a great defensive back in the NFL. There's no line about that when it comes to this man. So let me pull up some information about Stephon real quick. So, the thing is with Stephon Gilmore is this man had a pretty legendary career, including being with the New England Patriots during their dynasty years that he won Super Bowl. It's pretty amazing to see just how great of a career Stephon Gilmore has had. I'm not gonna lie, his career is nothing short of extraordinary. This man was a great defensive back. No ifs, no ands, no buts about it. The man was legendary in and of itself. He was. Hopefully he can continue to. Hopefully that they celebrate his legacy, and I hope he gets inducted to the Hall of Fame because he really was that good of a DB. Now, on to other news. It's about Kirk Cousins. Las Vegas Raiders, you must be the stupidest people imaginable. If you really just, Kirk Cousins basically just run the lottery here, people. The freaking Raiders have signed Kirk Cousins to a 5-year, $172 million deal. Now, they say that in reality, with the Raiders, that in reality is a 1-year, fully guaranteed $120 million deal that also contains a club option for 2 years and $80 million. And obviously, we all know that the Falcons will pay Kirk Cousins. They got rid of him, obviously, for good reason, because he wasn't really worth a damn anymore. But I don't see what was the purpose. Here's the thing. Kirk Cousins has not been good in a while, people. He has not. Kirk Cousins has been a good quarterback in certain spurts, but for the Raiders, I don't know if this was the smart move. This might have been the dumbest move I've ever seen in my lifetime. Seriously, I don't know what these people are thinking. I don't know what you thought. How good of a signing this was. What was going through your brains, Raiders? 5-year, $172 million? Kirk Cousins just cashing in on piggy banks now, because I think you can just see just how stupid these organizations are. Seriously. If an organization is actually going to pay him this much money when he hasn't been good and God knows how the F long, I don't know what we're doing today. I don't know what we're doing today. I don't know what we're doing. Because seriously, Raiders, I want you to answer me this question. What sense did that make? Why would you pay Kirk Cousins that amount of money? He's not worth that amount of money, my dog. He's not. I'm sorry to tell people. Now, some people may be feeling offended by that. I don't care. Others maybe not so much. But But I'm telling you right here, right now, that Kirk Cousins is not worth that amount of money. He's not. He's not. I'm sorry to tell people. He's not. I will never understand this. I will never, ever, 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 ever understand that. Obviously. I will never understand it. So let's move down. So that's all the NFL news there has been so far, obviously. There hasn't been any more NFL news that have popped up lately. Let me check to see, has there been any NBA news? Okay, so yes, here is some NBA news. Stephen Curry, he is set to return after 2 months of absence from an injury that he had suffered. Which is good. That's good. It's good to see Stephen Curry coming back, obviously, after all this time. It's actually really, really good. I'm not gonna lie. Not only that, but apparently the NBA might be looking to investigate the dispute between the Bucks and Giannis, apparently. So let me click onto this. The NBA is investigating into a dispute between the Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo regarding the two-time MVP's injury status is ongoing. So this is all about Giannis, who obviously a dispute between Giannis and the Bucks where it goes all the way back to when he was dealing with injuries. So let's see here. According to the article, an NBA investigation has opened up between the Bucks and Giannis regarding the two-time MVP's injury status is ongoing. The NBA issued a statement offering an update on the investigation Saturday, a day after Antetokounmpo told Giannis journal said no that he's healthy and he wants to play. Antetokounmpo hasn't played since leaving a March 15 victory over the Indiana Pacers after landing awkwardly on a dunk. The Bucks released the injury report Saturday, ruling him out for Sunday's matchup with the Memphis Grizzlies, which will mark the 11th straight game that he's missed. The NBA's Players Participation Policy investigation into the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo is ongoing, and certain facts remain in dispute. An NBA spokesman said the investigation has found that the Bucks scheduled Giannis to work out last week in 3-on-3 scrimmages as part of his return to play process, but he declined to participate. There is a disagreement as to whether the team requests that Giannis participate in the group workout early this week, and the league is continuing to monitor the situation. Giannis also told reporters, "I'm healthy." After the Bucks had lost to the Boston Celtics. I hate when people force me to do things against my nature. I'm a player. I get paid to play, he also has said. So basically, this is obviously something that needs to be investigated, of course, because if Giannis says he wants to play and he can't play, they have to let him play. We'll try to keep an update on that situation as far as we're concerned. Oh, and the Lakers also have an injury with Reeves. Everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say Reeves. Austin Reeves, their best little man. He's been out with injury himself. He's going to be out, it says, a grade 2. He suffered a grade 2 Quebec muscle strain in the April 2nd game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's unclear as to when he could return, but we do know that he will be out for some time. Now, finally, going on to the NBA news, and then after this, we will hit right into the coaches, comparing the coaches to past coaches as well. But we will discuss the NBA 2026 Hall of Fame class. Apparently, so far they have Joey Crawford, the referee, Mark Few, the coach, Doc Rivers, and the coach, obviously Doc Rivers, and Amari Stoudemire, player. We all know who that is. They also have, let's see here. So they have those three on the men's side of things. So let me read it again. Joey Crawford, Mark Few, Doc Rivers, Amari Stoudemire. Then they also have the 1996 women's national team. What I mean by that, the United States U.S. women's national team. Obviously, they will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Alina Del Donnie, from part of the WNBA, will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Shamil Holdsclaw, she will also be inducted to the Hall of Fame. So for those of you who don't know who these two are, let me tell you. Alani Del Don is a two-time WNBA Most Valuable Player, 2015-2019. Del Don started for the Chicago Sky and the Washington Mist and led Washington to their first ever WNBA championship in 2019. Del Don, who was named to the WNBA's 25th anniversary team in 2021, was a 7-time All-Star and 4-time All-WNBA first-time selection and selected as the league's Rookie of the Year in 2013. A 2-time first-team All-American at the University of Delaware, Del Donnie was selected second overall in the 2013 WNBA draft and won an Olympic gold medal with the United States team at the 2016 games in Rio de Janeiro. And for Quinnipiac Holdsclaw, Jesus Christ, a 6-time WNBA All-Star from 1999 to 2003 and 2005. Or should I say, matter of fact, let me say it like this. A 6-time WNBA All-Star from 1999 to 2005. Holdsclaw was the first overall pick in the 1999 WNBA draft after leading Tennessee to 3 consecutive national championships in 1996 to 1998, the 1999 Rookie of the Year, and the 2002 scoring champion who averaged about 16 points, 7.6 rebounds, and her 11-year WNBA career with the Washington Mystics from 1999 to 04, the Los Angeles Sparks from 05 to 07, the Atlanta Dream in 09, and then the San Antonio Silver Stars in 2010. She also won a gold medal in the 2000s, was a 2-time Naismith College Player of the Year from 98 to 99, and finished as an All-SEC all-time leading scorer. She's introduced into the Women's Hall of Fame. And you also have Candace Parker, another woman who's very famous, one of the most accomplished women's players in women's basketball history. Parker is a 3-time WNBA champion, 2016, 2021, and 2023, a 2-time league MVP from 2008 and 2013, earning Finals MVP honors in 2016. She's also the only WNBA player to be named Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season, 2008, which was the year, and was also recognized as the league's Defensive Player of the Year in 2020, a 7-time WNBA All-Star and All-WNBA first-time team selection. Parker started collegiately at Tennessee, not shocking, winning 2 NCAA national titles in 2007 and 2008, and is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist from 2008 and 2012. So this has been pretty great to see that this will be their class moving forward. So you got only 9 people so far, and obviously the committee has Mike D'Antoni. I'm gonna say Mike D'Antoni. So to see them here, I I think this is great, to be quite honest. This is amazing to see that they have the Hall of Fame, the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. This is pretty amazing. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's something we might want to pay attention to when these people do get inducted. I won't lie about that. I won't lie about that. This has been really, really good. So now that we got that out of the way, we can pretty much start talking about comparisons of coaches. Now, people may ask what I mean by that. Again, I will go back and I will tell you the same thing I told anybody else. And it's this. We have heard about a bunch of coaches getting compared to all-time greats, such as every single person in the media comparing someone like Dan Lanning, Kirby Smart, Kirk Cignetti now, Dabo Swinney and others to Nick Saban. It's time we understand who we're comparing them to. Now, let me tell you right now, because I'm going to give you what I have found out about these particular coaches. Who have they been compared to by others? So, let's see here. Who should I start with here? So, we got Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, and Dabo Swinney. So, like I told you guys, we're going to be comparing Ryan Day, Kirk Cignetti, Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, and Dabo Swinney to great coaches. Because these are the coaches who mostly get compared to the greats that have come before them. Now, again, like I said, let me tell you who they're getting compared to regarding this entire thing. Let me tell you who they're getting compared to. Let me tell you who they're getting compared to. All right. So, Ryan Day, as of right now, he's gotten compared to 4 different coaches. Some of these I kind of find offensive, actually. One I find definitely offensive as to who people are comparing him to. Now, Ryan Day's elite offensive mind is often compared to someone as Steve Sarkisian. He's been compared to Steve Sarkisian. He's been compared to Urban Meyer, Kirby Smart, Lincoln Riley, which is offensive. But the one that's most definitely offensive that I will never wrap my head around why anybody would compare him is Jim Harbaugh. Could somebody explain to me what is similar between Jim Harbaugh and Ryan Day? Who compared Ryan Day to Jim Harbaugh? I don't know where this came from. That is the most offensive. Like I said, comparing Lincoln Riley, Jim Harbaugh to Ryan Day is offensive. Like Steve Sarkisian, I can understand because he was an NFL guy. Ryan Day is an NFL guy, of course, and they have elite offensive minds. I can understand that. Comparing him to Urban Meyer, obviously, I can understand. Both of them took over the same program, maintaining the similar high level of recruiting and success. Offensive, and you can even say defensive. Kirby Smart, I could understand that. Both regarded as the top coaches of 2020, though they have different strengths. Obviously, Ryan Day on offense, Smart on defense, but you can tell they're similar in a lot of ways. Like one of the similarities, you can say, is their intensity on the field. That you can say is a similar thing. But like Lincoln Riley, I guess I can understand, like Steve Sarkisian, Ryan Day is a great offensive mind, so I could see that. But at the same time, I find that offensive because at least Ryan Day's had the courtesy, unlike Lincoln Riley, to adapt. I can understand where you're seeing similarities as you would see with Steve Sarkisian, where you see a great offensive mind. But I look at Ryan Day, and trust me, anybody who pays attention would tell you that there are people across college football who knew Ryan Day would make Ohio State a ton more scary. And I mean a ton more scary if he ever broke through. Because he has been adapting, he's been changing, and he's been doing his own thing. factual, my people. It's factual. But the Jim Harbaugh comparison would leave me for an ache. Because Ryan Day is not a weirdo or a scumbag like Jim Harbaugh. Like, Harbaugh's a scumbag. Now, people might say, well, the pressure he had to beat Michigan, to beat Michigan, like Harbaugh had to beat Ohio State. Here's the difference. Ryan Day had to win after 2024. Because, 2024, there was no excuse for him not to win that game. So he had to beat them this year because there was no excuse. But 21 to 23 was done the cheating scandals, you ninnies. Name me a time Ryan Day ever cheated against Michigan. Ryan Day's not a scumbag. Ryan Day doesn't break the rules like this piece of crap does. Ryan Day doesn't misbehave like this moron does. Ryan Day is actually someone that players love to play for because Harbaugh, whether people know it or not, is hated by a lot of people, including players. Especially in the NFL. Again, not that long ago, just a list had came out this year regarding 2025 coaches as who are the coaches that players love versus the ones they hate. Jim Harbaugh is regarded as the most hated coach in the NFL by players. He is regarded as the most hated coach. It's for a reason. It's because he's an INRAD. What I mean by INRAD, he's an annoying nuisance that you cannot stand and that you want to get rid of. Ryan Day is nothing like that. Ryan Day is nothing like that. I don't care what nobody say. Anybody tell me Ryan Day is as disliked as Jim Harbaugh. And again, some people may say, well, their winning percentages are the same and there's much pressure to win. And it's like, dude, Ohio State's always been that way. You can apply that same thing to Kirby Smart. Apply that same thing to Steve Sarkisian. Apply that same thing to Urban Meyer. Even Nick Saban. Like, you can apply that to a lot of coaches, dude. Well, I shouldn't say a lot, because not every program has those type of coaches. But you get what I'm saying. Like, James Franklin always had that pressure on him going back to Penn State. Because they were a team that could compete. He could never break through the ceiling. That was the problem. But no, they don't have a similar winning percentage as far as I'm concerned, because I do not count Jim Harbaugh's last 3 years of cheating. And again, Ryan Day's never done anything as malevolent as what Jim Harbaugh did for the past 3 years. Not to mention, Jim Harbaugh is a loser who couldn't win big games. At least with Ryan Day was a first-time head coach. Jim Harbaugh's had all the experience there's been to be a head coach, people. He's had all the experience. Ryan Day's a first-time head coach learning on the job. Jim Harbaugh's been a head coach for what? Almost, 20 years? So at least with Ryan Day, I can understand the fact that you're learning how to be a head coach versus a guy who's been doing it long enough. And Ryan Day broke through and didn't need a scandal to do it. He did it on his own, regardless of how people feel about it. Comparing him to Jim Harbaugh is the ultimate insult to coaching comparisons over the years. It is the ultimate insult. To whoever was doing comparing, this was the ultimate insult. That's more insulting than Lincoln Riley. Because, like I said, at least Lincoln Riley is a good offensive mind that you could compare him to, like Steve Sarkisian. Except I think Ryan Day is more like Steve Sarkisian than he is Lincoln Riley. Because no offense, Lincoln Riley is an average-ass head coach who is an elite offensive mind. He's an elite offensive coordinator, but an average-ass head coach. Until proven otherwise. But no, I would never compare Ryan Day to freaking Jim Harbaugh of all people. Like, what are we doing? Now, obviously, we all know that as of late, who Kirk Cignetti's been getting compared to is Nick Saban. I don't agree with this comparison, but people will say that, oh, well, Cignetti is forced to force a strict winning culture focused on player discipline and high-intensity preparation. I can see what people are saying that, but you can say the same thing about Urban Meyer and a couple other all-time great coaches that came before him. Like that, like trust me, Nick Saban wasn't the only one doing that. He's the most famous we know of, obviously, but he wasn't the only one. Because you can say that about Pete Carroll, you can say that about Jim Tressel, you can say that about Urban Meyer, you can say that about Paul Bear Bryant, who, by the way, like Nick Saban, won 6 national titles. You can say that about Woody Hayes. Just out of curiosity, so I wouldn't say that is necessarily a way to compare him to Saban. Another set of coaches, though, that he has been compared to is Herb Brooks and Jim Valano. I think is how you pronounce it. So let's go ahead and kind of look it up. Herb Brooks. Wait a minute here. I'm thinking of it. I'll look into it later. But give me a second, people. But here we can go about, let's see here. All right, so here we can go about Kirk Cignetti. It's basically due to a miracle-style rebuild is why they compare him to Herb Brooks and Jim Valano, because both of them have done the same times, emphasizing his ability to bring instant success, which is fair to say that he can do that with what the both of them did. But again, I would compare him to somebody different, as I just talked about, and I would give you my comparisons and why I think he's more like these particular coaches, why the particular coach I would compare him to. This is just what others, and let me remind everybody, this is just what others have compared these coaches to. Not me, but others. Obviously, the national media for the most part. Kirby Smart, who is he compared to? Nick Saban. He's also been compared to Dan Hurley, the UConn basketball coach, which I can see why, because of the emotional intensity and a focus on building a sustainable team culture is another way people say, but I'm saying that's completely false. Now, you can say in terms of emotional sideline intensity, yes, but if you're talking about building a sustainable team culture, have you seen what's been happening off the field? So, no, I would disagree with that one, but the first part I would agree with. Here's the funny thing. I really would not compare him to Nick Saban. Now, another coach he's been compared to is Bob Stoops. I can see that, to be quite honest. I can see that. Because Bob Stoops was a great coach. He's a great coach. I'm not going to take that away from Kirby. Sorry, y'all. That was my dog. Yo, sorry, y'all. My dog went pretty stupid. I'm so sorry about that, y'all. My dog just went so stupid barking. I did not want y'all to hear my dog. Now where was I? Oh, yes. So Kirby Smart, he's been compared to Nick Saban. He's been compared to Dan Hurley. Another coach he's been compared to was Urban. And Bob Stoops is another set, like I see it. And I can see it. Now, Dan Lanning. What's super funny is here's the coaches he gets compared to. Kirby Smart, Dan Campbell, Deion Sanders. I can actually see the three of these. In a lot of ways, I could see where they were coming from when it came to these comparisons of him. I can see what they were talking about when they say, like, okay, because Dan Lanning does have that Kirby Smart kind of, like, defensive mindedness where he does have Dan Campbell's, like ability to command a room. And Deion Sanders for being bold and aggressive. I could see that. I could see that. So, like, I could see that with someone like Dan Lanning. Like, these three comparisons, I can absolutely see. I can see that. I can 100% see that. Now, what coach would I compare it to? I'll tell you about that one later. Now, another coach who's also been compared. Now, I will say this. Dan Lanning has been compared to Saban as well before. Now, I am not seeing that as much as before, but he has been. Another coach who we could say who has been comparison is Dabo Swinney. He's been compared to Nick Saban as well. I don't have to tell you people this either. He's also been compared to Bobby Bowen and John Calipari. In all honesty, I could see that with Calipari and Bob Bowen. The problem is with Dabo Swinney is he is a builder. I'll say this now. But at the same time, it's kind of like, dude, you haven't changed. You haven't changed. Like, you are back to doing the Dabo. You haven't adapted. You haven't done anything. And as Ryan Day said, you either adapt or you die. It's kind of funny. So I could kind of see the first two. The Nick Saban one, I don't see. I don't see the Nick Saban. I just don't. Like, Nick Saban has adapted. You know what? This is actually where I will compare Dabo Swinney to Joe Paterno. That would be another comparison, because this man could not go about his business. Seriously, like, he refuses to change. He refuses to adapt. So I can see that one being another one. Because it's like you refuse to adapt. You do. You refuse to adapt. You refuse to change. You refuse to do anything better. So it's like, for me, when it comes to this, I would say that would be the perfect coach as well with Dan Lanning as Joe Paterno. I can see that. Because he will be holding. I can see that. So now that we got that out of the way, I'm going to tell you the coaches I believe that these coaches compare to. In my personal opinion, and I will give you why. I will give you where. So first, let's just say this. All right. Give me a second, y'all. I'm kind of in the middle of something right now. I want to make sure I got everything in order. So the one coach I would compare Ryan Day to is actually Nick Saban. If there's one coach I could compare to Nick Saban, it is Ryan Day. Now, people may ask, why would I compare Ryan Day to Nick Saban? This is one reason. He adapts like Nick Saban. People need to understand that Ryan Day's philosophy, a lot of the moves he's made regarding the transfer portal, regarding recruiting, regarding his hirings, how he moves, how he's efficient, how it took him like, 5, 6, 7, damn near 8 years to change. I would say it took him like 5 to 7 years to finally change how he does things as a head coach. And that's how long it practically took Nick Saban to change, which was that long. because he had done stuff his way for a long time, but he realized in like 5, 6, 7 years he had to change at some point, because if his team was going to get better, he had to adapt. He had to just stop doing things his way, and he had to change how he did things. That's what I look at when I see Ryan Day. I mean, I look at the hires this man has made with Chip Kelly, Jim Knowles, Tim Walton, beforehand, and the hirings he's made even after the fact with guys like Matt Patricia, who might be the best hire Ryan Day's ever made, and what he's doing with Arthur Smith right now. That's Nick Saban level hiring. Heck, even what he's doing with Joe Kim, who coached with Nick Saban when Saban was in the NFL with the Browns under Bill Belichick. Jason Brooks from the Pittsburgh Steelers, as well as the offensive line coach that was under Arthur Smith during his time in Atlanta and Pittsburgh. So, like, when I'm looking at the moves Ryan Day has made with his analysts and his staff in general and the coaching staff, and how he's done things in the portal and in recruiting, I can compare that to Nick Saban, because even though Nick Saban got out before NIL became legal, officially, like to a point where it is now, Ryan Day has managed to change the way he's done things, and the way he hires, the way he goes about his practices, is more like a Nick Saban than any coach. Because as much as people want to compare certain coaches to Saban, you got to look at the philosophy in which they do things. And Ryan Day's philosophy is comparable to someone like Saban. I'm not saying Ryan Day's going to be the next Saban. Let me make this really clear to people. When I'm comparing these coaches, I'm comparing them based on their coaching styles, based on how they've done things, based on the hirings and the moves that they made and every other, based on their philosophy, basically. I am doing this completely based on their philosophy of coaching. How is it comparable to coaches of the past? Ryan Day is more comparable to Nick Saban than Kirk Cignetti, Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, and Dabo Swinney. It is more comparable to those coaches than anybody else. Realistically. Nobody else has done anything of what Ryan Day has done. What Ryan Day's done is more Nick Saban than anybody else. So I would personally say Ryan Day's more of my Nick Saban than anybody else. So that's what I would say. I don't think anybody else is Nick Saban but Ryan Day. I don't. Now, Kirk Cignetti. He's the next coach I would move to here. Who is he more comparable to? I think he's comparable to Urban Meyer. I'm sorry, Chris. I know I'm going to tick you off when I said that, but it's true. Kirk Cignetti is more like Urban Meyer than he is Saban. If anything, he's more Urban. Now, people will ask, why do I say that? His philosophy, how he does things. Not to mention the energy in which he coaches with. It reminds me so much of Urban Meyer, where he coaches angry all the time. Kirk Cignetti does. And you know what? That works until you get into a high-pressure situation. Now, I will say this. With Indiana, he's not in a high-pressure situation, so he doesn't have to worry about burning himself out 24/7. He don't got to worry about that. I will say that right now. Like, unlike Urban, you're not in a situation where you're going to burn yourself out quickly. But you will burn yourself out. It's going to happen, especially because you've been doing it for a while now. I'm not going to lie about that. He will eventually do that. But he coaches like Urban, where he coaches angry. He's more of a college-oriented coach as well. Like with Ryan Day, I talked about this before with Ryan Day. He's making more Nick Saban moves, because Nick Saban was hiring a bunch of NFL guys. Like, Nick Saban was ahead of the curve before anybody else. Like, all the rules we're seeing implemented in college football, Nick Saban was doing it before these rules were even a thing. Ryan Day's basically putting those rules into effect here. He's doing exactly what Nick Saban did back then. He's not just hiring college guys. The man is an NFL guy, like Saban. Like Saban, he's an NFL guy. So, like, people tend to forget this, but Saban was in the NFL. Like, Saban was more of an NFL guy, if anything. He was. So this is why I would say this. Like, Ryan Day's made moves like Saban. Cignetti's more of a college guy, where, like, Urban did not hire, like, again, the few NFL hire he did make, the one he did make was Ryan Day, and that was it. He's never made another NFL, he's never made a hire an NFL coach. Ever. Ever. Cignetti is more college-oriented, where Ryan Day, like Saban, is more pro-NFL-oriented. Cignetti's more college-oriented of a coach. That's exactly what Urban was, which is kind of why I figured he wasn't going to do very well in the NFL, because I'm like, Urban, I want to believe you do well, but you're more of a college guy. You're not an NFL guy. No offense, man. I love you to death, but, man, you are more of a college guy. Another guy that we could compare, Kirby Smart, I would compare him to Bob Stoops. Why? Because Bob Stoops had something built during his time here at Oklahoma. And let's be realistic. Regardless of how we feel about Kirk Cignetti, he is every bit how he built a great program in Georgia. I would compare his coaching style to that of Bob Stoops. I will say this. I don't think under Bob Stoops you've had this many people arrested off the field. I would say that's the one thing I will say that Bob Stoops did not have. But Kirby Smart, from just a coaching standpoint, is a lot like Bob Stoops as far as style, as far as how he did things. And like Bob Stoops, he's more of a defensive guy. So I could see that being a thing with Kirby Smart. Dan Lanning, you know what's funny is I don't think there is a great you could compare him to, other than I would say Pete Carroll would be my best comparison for someone like Dan Lanning. To me, it would be Pete Carroll for Dan Lanning, just because he's got that same kind of like laid backness to him. If you ask me, that's who I would compare Dan Lanning to. He reminds me so much of a Pete Carroll with the way he coaches and how his coaching style is. He reminds me a lot of that. So I would say for Dan Lanning, Pete Carroll, because their coaching styles are similar. Their energy is similar in what they do in practices. They have the same type of, how am I going to say this with Pete Carroll? It's like that same, like, I believe Dan Lanning could be pro, but also college-oriented, in a sense, if you get what I'm saying. So, like, if you ask me, I would say that Dan Lanning is more Pete Carroll than anybody else. That would be my best comparison for someone like Dan Lanning, is Pete Carroll. Because all the things we just discussed, where he was being compared to Kirby Smart, to Deion Sanders, and Dan Campbell. In all fairness, I seen that with Pete Carroll, so I could understand it, if you ask me. Seriously, people may think I'm joking, but I'm dead serious right now. Like, I really do believe that he is more Dan. I really do believe that with Dan Lanning. And then the one and final right here, as we all know to this day, is basically Dabo Swinney. Who is he most compared to? I would say Bobby Bowlen. And in all fairness, when you kind of look at it, what Bobby Bowlen was able to do with the Florida State Seminoles, it was pretty much like what Dabo Swinney did with the Clemson Tigers. I can't lie about that. I cannot lie about that. I cannot lie. I really do see similarity into how these programs were built under both these coaches. I see that. I can see it. People can say I'm tripping. People can say whatever. If you ask me, and this is just blatantly my opinion, what Bobby Bowlen was able to do with the Florida State Seminoles is exactly what Dabo Swinney did with Clemson. You built them back up. You built them up into a great program, You won championships. You did everything possible. You did. You did. You did everything right. So if you had to ask me what I think of Dabo Swinney, that's who I would go to, is Bobby Bone. As far as coaching philosophy, as far as and excuse me, as far as coaching philosophy, as far as the way they've themselves, I would say the same thing is that Dabo Swinney is a Bobby Bone. And a lot of people may not like that, and I understand that some of these coaches, but you got to understand the philosophy. I'm not saying these coaches are going to be as great as the coaches before them. I'm not saying that. Like, people have to understand. I am not saying that. What I'm saying is, who do these coaches compare to more than anybody else? Who do they compare to? And who they compare to simply means that this is who they're more like. They are more like these coaches than the ones that the general public and the general national media compares them to. Because it's all based on their philosophies. It's all based on all the stuff they've done before. That's how I tell you. Thanks, guys. This is the final coaching segment of the show. I'm sorry that my partner James couldn't come on. He was busy with family, and rightfully so. Understandable. You guys will get to hear his side of who he believes these coaches compare to on the next show, next week Sunday. And you guys will also get to hear some even more news coming out that might be coming out during the time, such as Arthur Smith's offense, what we're going to be hearing about that. And you guys can check it out today on the OHL podcast, because they will be doing a show about Arthur Smith's offense. And you guys wouldn't want to miss that. More importantly, you guys also don't want to miss the upcoming. Basically, you don't want to miss anything upcoming with the OHL podcast this week. Or even, and again, you don't want to miss the podcast of the Spectrum podcast next Sunday. Make sure you guys also check out the Illuminati podcast of my girl Mika, who I plan at some point to probably have guest star on the Spectrum podcast, because I would love to have her. As well as check out the Buckeye Zone with Nate and Sean, who have been amazing what they've done on their shows. Make sure you guys check them out as well. This has been... And to let you guys know this as well, that the podcast, the Spectrum podcast, the Illuminati podcast, and the Buckeye Zone, obviously are all sponsored by the OHL podcast and our media company that we're now working for as well. I can't wait to see how far we can go with this, but I promise you guys that things will get better. You will see more shows like this moving forward, and I promise you guys you will see better shows. And at some point, maybe even special guests. But as of right now, you're going to stick to seeing myself, James, Mika, and Sean and Nate. And you guys will be able to see us on the OHR podcast roundtables as well. So make sure you guys hit the like, share, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you never miss an episode. And if you guys need to, leave a comment in the comment section. It'll help get our algorithm out there as well. And I'll see you guys next week Sunday. Peace out, everybody. End of the Spectrum.